Before we dive into today's episode, I want to extend a special invitation to all of our listeners. If you're considering adoption, navigating the home study process, or simply curious about your options, RG Adoption Consulting is here to guide you. Visit our website at www.rgadoptionconsulting.com/contact to schedule a complimentary chat. Our multi-agency approach is a strategic way to accelerate your adoption process without putting all your eggs in one basket. This strategy prevents you from feeling stuck with one agency, especially after a significant financial commitment. Why not consider a multi-agency approach with lower initial fees? We believe it makes a lot more sense. Plus, the support and education you receive through our services are aspects you might not expect you'll need until you're deep into the process. Reach out to us at rgadoptionconsulting.com/contact. We're here to support your adoption journey every step of the way. Your dream is to become a mom. My dream is to help you get there. I'm Rebecca Gruenspan, a single mom through domestic adoption and an adoption consultant for over a decade. I'll be your guide, along with other adoption professionals and members of the adoption constellation, walking you step by step down this beautiful and complex path of adopting your baby. When I was going through the adoption process, I had no idea what I was doing, what I needed to know, or more importantly, who to trust. Well, after helping hundreds and hundreds of families grow through the beauty and complexity of adoption, I've learned more than a thing or two, and let me tell you, it's not always rainbows and butterflies. This isn't just another podcast sharing adoption stories, but it's for you if you're genuinely committed to diving in with an open heart, eager to learn everything there is to know about adopting a baby so that you can show up for yourself and your child in the best way possible. This podcast is for you if you're ready to put your newfound knowledge into action. Adoption isn't for the weak of heart, and it certainly isn't done when your baby gets placed in your arms. If that's what you think, I'm afraid you're living in La La Land. My promise to you is to keep it real if you promise to keep digging. We'll acknowledge the hard, and we'll also celebrate the joy that is adoption. You ready? Let's do this. Hello! And good morning. I hope that everybody has had a wonderful week so far. Let's see what has been a win this week. We have in my home, the Gruenspan abode, we have a new 21-year-old man from Israel staying with us for 2 months while he works here on an exchange. Every year, one of the camps brings in about, 10 Israelis, and in Hebrew, they're called shlichim or shaliach for one, or shlicha, that's girl. Shaliach is boy, shlichim is multiple, and that is your Hebrew lesson for this morning. Anyways, we have this lovely man staying with us for 2 months, and we are on day 2, day 2, and it's been wonderful so far. So that's a win for us. I'm excited. We, when we lived in Chicago, I'm in Cleveland now, we had 2 different times where we had exchange students, one from Spain, one from Mexico. And it was such a great experience in such a little teeny place. And now we have more space. So it's been nice. So a lot of stuff has come up over the past week, including these waves in my hair, which I'm loving. Podcast is going strong. If you haven't caught it yet, please do. It's called the Adoption Roadmap Podcast. You can find it literally anywhere that you listen to podcasts. Number one, you could even watch it on YouTube. It is both video and audio. And yesterday we dropped an episode where I got the opportunity to talk to one of my besties, Carrie Hackett, who is also a fellow single mama by choice through adoption. So that was a fun conversation, and I think that you'll enjoy it. If you do, please give us a rating and follow us and all the things that you do with podcasts. I'd appreciate it. My son's home for the summer this week in the other room. He said, hi. A lot has come up this week. So adding a newborn to health insurance. And I want to bring this up on Facebook because there is always a ton of conversation around adding kids to insurance. Okay. Needing some advice on adding newborn to health insurance. My employer keeps telling me that they can only be added to insurance once they have a social security number, but that doesn't happen until finalization, right? How is the newborn covered otherwise until then? This is a response that our client got from their employer. When a baby is born, they automatically hold off on the hospital charges because they know that the baby can't be put on insurance without a social. He wouldn't even be able to have Medicaid until he is assigned a social. What the hospital will do is take your information to begin with because he will have the same contract number and group number as you. And then he said, does this sound right? Here are some of the answers. This is completely wrong. You don't need a social to add them to insurance. I concur. The law states that an adopted child will be treated like any other child. That means the moment you are financially responsible for them, which can even happen before placement, they are legally able to be added to your insurance. Please feel free to DM me if you need help fighting this battle. Helping people with an insurance is literally my hobby. I've helped a lot of people get covered for various things, started with IVF, and now do the same for adoption. So if you need that help, I might have a contact for you. Let me read you some more. Agreed. I had to sue my employer, and they changed their policy once they were informed of the law. Wow. Oh, wow. I'm looking at who responded to that, and I remember her situation. Okay. Somebody else said, I sell health insurance, group and individual. Insurance companies give you up to 60 days to add a newborn and process claims. They will start with name and date of birth and add social once available. Perhaps HR in a smaller office gave this generic reply. You can also call the 800 number on the back of your card. I did call customer service from my insurance company, and they confirmed what my employer was saying. Interesting. Is it a smaller company? Most larger carriers like Blue Cross Blue Shield and UHC will take name and date of birth. I would not stress, though, claims can be filed and newborns added retroactively, even up to 90 days. Just keep them posted with information you do have when you have it. And if anybody has any of their own experience, please chime in. Illinois has a law that once you have initial paperwork, your child is a dependent for medical insurance purposes, meaning once you're financially responsible for the child, check with an adoption attorney in your state or DM me if you're in Illinois. My personal experience 12 years ago was that my son got added from the day he was born, retroactively. Is that the word? So I submitted paperwork afterwards. Also people saying, yep, got our child added before the Social Security. Somebody said, I don't think most insurance companies understand adoption or the terminology. Our insurance company told us that our son would not be covered until the adoption was finalized, but then they added him the day of placement. We just had to send the legal documentation to them. They would ask for a social security number periodically, and we just told them that we didn't have it and we're working on it. We didn't have a social for him until he was a year old, and it wasn't a problem. My tip for you, find out if baby is covered at time of birth or time of placement. If at time of placement, get them Medicaid coverage for first days, not on your insurance. Otherwise, the bill might be staggering. I got a huge bill because my insurance said he wasn't covered until placement, which was after 3 days in the NICU. I was able to get his Medicaid after, and they paid me back, but that was stressful. So, bottom line is, many companies have no clue what they're talking about. There are laws in different states. I don't know if they're all the same, if it's based on an insurance company. Typically, you will not have a social security number for months, and typically that should not affect the insurance coverage. There are about 50 responses to this. I'm not going to read them all, but I think this is a huge issue, especially for companies not really truly understanding the lingo of adoption and or the laws, because not everybody deals with this on a daily basis. Very interesting. Being uncomfortable with a Zoom call. Oh, here's another one. These were great conversations. Hold on, let me see if I can find this really quickly. Okay, here we go. Our 5-month-old daughter's birth mom is requesting we do a Zoom call. We only communicate by Child Connect, which is an online portal where it's usually set up through an agency where you connect online, and no revealing information. That's not the word I'm looking for, but that's the word that's coming to this woman's brain right now, is shared. We only communicate by Child Connect and are not comfortable sharing all of our contact details. How would you go about doing this? Our agency said that it's up to us to talk however we want. Any advice is appreciated. Okay, this is a great one. Here are some of the comments. Do you have any safety concerns? Somebody asked. And then she said, maybe a little. We started as a closed adoption and are navigating towards open because birth mom has changed her mind about openness. We're trying to do what is best for our daughter. This may be an unpopular opinion, but we did foster care for several years prior to adoption and dealt with truly dangerous bio parents who ended up in prison. I fully understand the safety piece. And this is a concern for a lot of people. So I'm not going to throw in my personal opinion here one way or another, but I want you to listen, because there are, people are so quick to jump in with their opinions about things. But unless you know, one, where somebody's coming from, and two, what they're dealing with, you might not fully, you need to understand the full picture. So she has dealt with foster care. The family was not safe. Our foster girls went to other family after over 3 years with us about 3 years ago. And I'm only now starting to see how important that familial connection is, not only for their identity, but as they relate to other kids at school and their families. If you plan to be open with your daughter about adoption, she will eventually want to know about her birth mom. We were always told by our foster girls therapists that it's in their best interest to know early on and not having a bomb dropped at 16. Agreed. We use Skype with our son's birth mother. I always have a pit in my stomach before we get on, but feel better after. I want him to know her and see her and not try to find her at 16 because he's built up an image of her that's unrealistic. I hope you're listening to this because this is so important. 5 months is kind of young, but I think you could also set some clear boundaries about what to expect from your daughter, how long, etc. She will probably be nervous, super nervous before, and might even cancel a few times. Our son's birth mother brings it up a lot. but has only followed through twice in 2 years. As our foster girls got older, we made it clear to their bio families that we would follow their cues. They could turn off the call whenever they wanted, and no one would be mad. And she said, thank you for that advice. I understand that it's important to try to establish a connection with her for our daughter's sake. I also remind myself that the best thing to happen to me is the worst thing to happen to her. Oh. I also remind myself that the best thing to happen to me is the worst thing to happen to her. So I try to give grace anywhere I can. It's beyond uncomfortable the first few times. It may be, it may not be. I think it might be important for her to see that sweet baby is safe, for the birth mom to see that her baby is safe and loved, and help her grieve and have a tiny bit of closure. It takes time to find your normal, but it's rewarding when you get there. And I really mean it. Sometimes they end up canceling because it's just too much. Try to not let it wrap you up until it's really happening. And there's so many, there's paragraphs, and people had a lot of advice, but it's such a good topic to talk about. Let me read one more. Somebody chimed in and said, such words of wisdom shared. I have 2 fully open adoptions with different birth moms. Just Tuesday night, we video chatted with my youngest's mom, as it was his birthday. His mom had asked to come visit him every year for his birthday, but the last 2 years she has not made it out, as she has been saving money for a place of her own to live. We don't video chat much, as my kids are awful at video chatting, but it was amazing talking with her and hearing her voice, seeing her place, and seeing how well she's doing. I think so often this is overlooked. Yet in open adoption, the birth family is truly part of your family. Most of the call time was her and I chatting and catching up, which was always explained to me with the matching phase. You want to match with someone you can have lifelong conversations with, as they will be in your life forever. Okay, it's always a nice bonus. I don't know if that's totally necessary, but it is a nice thing that can happen. We talked about work, we talked about our son, kids in general, crazy life stuff, goals we have for the year, etc. Yes, it can be about that little one, but it can also be about that relationship and commitment we have to one another for life. In my case, it's us and 2 moms. Oh, it's in this case, it's us 2 moms, bio and adoptive, committed to loving one little guy for life and ensuring he makes it through life, knowing he is loved more than anything in the world. I know my situation is a tad different since both adoptions are fully open, but it is for the reasons you stated that I work hard to keep the relationship going. I don't want my boys wondering or fantasizing. If someone asks them a question about their family, and they want to respond about their birth family, I want them to have that choice, as their birth family is part of their roots, just as their adoptive family is. I do my best to continually present to my kids, we are one family, birth and adopted, so they never feel like they have to choose in any way. They have Mama N, Mama D, and Mama, and we all love them. I have goosebumps throughout my whole body. What a beautiful thought. And there are so many more. This was such a rich conversation. So that came up this week in our community. Oh gosh, I feel like that was like, okay, mic drop. That was such a good sentiment. A good sentiment. You know, let me talk a little bit about prepping for the hospital and getting a hospital plan. Okay, kind of backing up in our in our process. So we talked a little bit about post-adoption, right? Especially in that first year or two, when you're still navigating the waters, building boundaries, setting boundaries, creating relationships, learning about each other, building trust, all of that stuff. That can be uncomfortable and hopefully becomes more comfortable. But let's take the step before the adoption even happens. So you're working with an agency or an attorney. They will likely, about 3 weeks before the birth, maybe a month to 3 weeks before the birth, set a hospital plan with the expectant mom. And that hospital plan includes things like who's going to name the baby ultimately, you or adoptive parents. Do you want to breastfeed? If it's a boy, are you making the decision about circumcision? Or are you going to let the family? Who do you want to hold the baby first? Do you want anyone in the room when you're giving birth? Do you want the baby in the room with you? Or do you want the baby in a nursery? Or do you want the baby in a room with the adoptive parents? And do you want to ask the hospital to give the adoptive parents their own room? These are all things that are discussed in a hospital plan prior to the birth, and is given to the hospital and shared with the hopeful parent so that everybody can hopefully be on the same page. Now, sometimes you are at a hospital that is very adoption friendly and that looks at that plan and gladly adheres to what the expectant mom and now the birth mom asked for and wanted. And sometimes you walk into a hospital that is, or even work with one person that is kind of anti-adoption, thinks it's wrong, or maybe you are a single parent who is adopting, or a gay family who's adopting, or a transracial family who's adopting, and they have strong opinions about that, and they treat you as such, and it's very uncomfortable. Or maybe the mom said she didn't want to hold the baby first, but the nurse thinks it's important for her to do so, so puts the baby in her arms after she's born. You can encounter all sorts of things. And so I want you to be prepared that although there is a plan in place, and although mom has chosen you and has chosen this plan and has hopefully been counseled as such and is firm in her decision, that things may not always go as planned. And so you need to walk in knowing that, walk in and be kind to everybody and go with the flow. That is the best advice I can give you, is to be prepared for anything, hope for the best, and go with the flow. I am going to end here. There is a lot more that came up, and I'm going to save some for next week. So please join me again here, same place, same time, next Thursday, and on the Adoption Roadmap podcast, which drops every Wednesday and Friday mornings. I hope that you'll continue to follow along. Thank you. Have a wonderful week. I love you all. Bye. Well, I hope you enjoyed that episode of the Adoption Roadmap podcast. If you did, I have a few favors to ask of you. First, please hit subscribe so you never miss an episode. And while you're at it, I'd love to hear your takeaways. Please write a review and let me know what you liked. And if you have a question or a suggestion on what you'd like to hear, I'd love to hear that too. Please shoot me an email at support@rgadoptionconsulting.com and let me know what you'd like to hear about. And if you have a question, I may just answer it online. Thanks again for listening. Tune in every Wednesday and Friday morning for a brand new episode of the Adoption Roadmap podcast. Until next time, bye-bye.